All right, let's talk about one of the biggest challenges a school leader faces. How do you actually improve teaching quality, not just for one or two teachers, but across the entire school, systematically? It's not about just hoping you hire superstars. It's about building a system where every single teacher can grow and get better. So, how do you do that? Well, that's the playbook we're going to build together today. So let's start with a really important question, one that gets right to the heart of the problem. You'd think that the longer you teach, the better you get, right? More experience equals more expertise. But the research shows something kind of fascinating and honestly a little troubling. For a lot of teachers, their effectiveness just kind of levels off. It hits a plateau after just a few years in the classroom. So why does that happen? To figure that out, we're going to walk through 5 key areas. First, we'll really dig into the problem itself. Then, we'll look at this super powerful solution called codification. After that, we get really practical. We'll talk about how to design and use a playbook. And finally, and this is key, we'll talk about how you build a culture of mastery that makes it all work.
Okay, let's jump right into part 1, the teacher improvement problem. We're going to take on this big, persistent idea, this myth of experience.
And here it is, the stat that just forces us to stop and think. Study after study shows this pattern. Teachers get a lot better in their first couple of years, and then progress often just flatlines. Now, this is not about blaming teachers at all. It's a flaw in the system. It just proves that putting in the years isn't the same thing as developing true expertise. And this quote from Anders Ericsson, the guy who literally wrote the book on the science of expertise, points us to the answer. It's not just practice that makes perfect. It's the right sort of practice. He calls it deliberate practice. It's focused, it's intentional, you're getting feedback. So the real question for schools becomes, how do we create a system for that? Okay, so if deliberate practice is what we're aiming for, how in the world do we build a system that supports it? Well, the answer lies in this really powerful idea, codification. It's all about how we turn the arts of great teaching into a science that anyone can learn. You can think about knowledge in 2 buckets. On one side, you've got tacit knowledge. This is the stuff a veteran teacher just does. It's that intuition, that classroom magic, but it's really hard to explain to someone else. On the other side, you've got explicit knowledge, stuff that's written down, it's clear, it can be shared and practiced. Codification is all about building a bridge between the two. And here's the official definition. It sounds a little academic, but what it really means is this. We watch what the best teachers do, we break it down into the smallest, most essential parts, and we create a shared language so that everyone can learn it, practice it, and eventually master it. It's about making that magic replicable. All right, so this all sounds great in theory, but how do we actually build this playbook? Let's get our hands dirty and move from the big ideas to what this actually looks like in a school. You almost always start here, with a big picture vision. You use established frameworks to define these broad domains of what great teaching looks like. Things like instruction or classroom environment. And that's a great foundation. But just telling a teacher to get better at instruction isn't helpful. It's not actionable. To make it something you can coach, you have to get way more specific. And this is where the magic really happens. We take a big standard and we break it down into a specific, concrete play. Just look at this example for a do now, that warm-up at the start of class. A playbook doesn't just say, start with a warm-up. No, it breaks it into 4 precise, observable steps. This is what you can practice. This is what a coach can give you feedback on. It makes teaching visible. So you just keep doing that. You build a whole library of these super detailed techniques, covering everything from how you ask questions to how you manage transitions between activities. This library becomes your school's shared understanding of excellence. And it's not a rigid script everyone has to follow. It's a playbook of proven, high-impact moves that teachers can master. So having the playbook is one thing, but using it for coaching and feedback, that's a whole other challenge. And it's where we have to get really honest about our own human biases. This is such a critical question, right? We all know that traditional observations can be, pretty subjective. You can have 2 different principals watch the exact same lesson and come away with totally different opinions. How do we make that process more reliable and fair for everyone? 30. Just let that number sink in for a second. Research says that to get a truly reliable, objective evaluation of just one teacher, you'd need about 30 separate observations. I mean, think about that. That's just impossible for any school to do. So the takeaway isn't that we need to observe more, it's that our whole approach to observation is broken.
And here's why it's so hard. Our brains are wired with all these mental shortcuts. We have confirmation bias. We see what we already believe. We remember the first and last 5 minutes of a lesson way more than the middle. We can get so used to seeing something every day that we literally stop noticing it. These aren't character flaws. It's just how our brains work. And this is how the playbook completely changes the game. When a coach walks into a classroom, they aren't just looking for good teaching. They're looking for specific, defined moves from the playbook. The conversation totally shifts. It goes from a vague, "I felt the pacing was a little off," to a really specific, "Let's talk about step 4 of the do now play. What did you notice when you circulated?" Now the feedback is concrete, it's objective, and it's genuinely useful. Look, a playbook is an amazing tool, but a tool is useless if the culture isn't right. The real goal here isn't a book, it's building a living, breathing community of professionals who are all obsessed with getting better at the craft of teaching. And this is just so important. Getting better at teaching is not a solo mission. The research is crystal clear on this. When teachers actually collaborate, when they watch each other teach, plan together, solve problems together, they improve so much faster. The playbook gives them that common language they need to make the collaboration really powerful. But you can't have great collaboration without trust. And trust is built on 3 pillars. Your colleagues have to know you have good character, that you're in it for the right reasons. They have to believe you're competent. And maybe the most important one, you need vulnerability. You have to create a space where it is safe for a teacher to put their hand up and say, "Hey, I am really struggling with this one technique. Can someone come watch me and help you practice?" And that's really the whole point of this. This isn't about creating some giant binder that just sits on a shelf and gathers dust. It's about using the process of creating a playbook to build a dynamic, supportive culture where every single teacher feels safe and empowered to do that hard, deliberate practice that we talked about way back at the beginning. So I want to leave you with this final thought. For so long, teaching has been treated like this private, mysterious art form. But what if codification is the key? What if this is the way we build a shared, evidence-based professional knowledge base, just like they have in medicine or engineering? It's a really powerful idea, and it might just be the thing that unlocks the full potential of every teacher in every classroom.